Okay, I am almost finished with the next album that'll be loaded up to Bandcamp, and it is entitled Power to the People. And it came about because as I was putting lyrics together on contemporary issues, the title of the whole album began to emerge that what we're really looking here is this play for power. Are we the people going to get our power, or are these harmonic energies going to suck up the life and us, our power, into their system as they convert the landscape of the earth into these data storage centers, which are really just, it's our life force that's in there. And they're being preserved. And how long will they keep these things? Like we put a video up 13 years ago, it's still there. Will it be there for all time? And where's that data storage going to come from? So it's very interesting. Now, I'm not too concerned about cats in our audience. These are people who've been following us for several years because you knew this time was coming, and that's why you made preparations. One of our family members who took what we had to say very seriously got right to work on their family's energy issue here in Michigan especially, and keeps showing me his power bills that are, seriously, we just saw one today, 11 cents. Imagine that. But you see, he's prepared. He was prepared for what was coming. Well, the coming is now here. And there's nothing we can do about families who are unprepared. So what are we seeing? And that, I think, is a manifestation of what it looks like to have humanity culled, culled. We are being slowly removed from the planet. And I see this progression, for example. And I'm not giving a judgment here, what's right or wrong. I'm just stating what I see. You have people who've been living generationally in Section 8 housing, and they're now being told that they have to vacate. And they're giving their vacation, you've got to go. And new people are told you only have 2 years. Well, that's fine. But for the people that are there, they're now told, find your own way. Well, these people are not equipped for that. How would it mean they have to go to work? They may not even have the basic understanding of showing up on time and being presentable for work. I mean, that is not what their economy and their financial system is. So you're throwing them into a whole strange world, thinking that they can add to the labor force, but that's not what's really going on. They full well know that these people will be totally lost. So what'll happen is that they won't have their Section 8 housing, but it could also be people who are just living marginally, who are not going to be able to sustain the utility bills that are going to be coming at them. That's going to dislocate them as well. So you're going to see this huge swath of people now that are going to become homeless. Okay? So they're being shaken, literally, from the tree of humanity. We're being culled, and they're the weakest, and they're going to be shaken off the tree. So they fall away, and then we've always asked the question, ever since we've seen the homeless growing in America, they will come in with these vans. Sometimes it's reported the white vans come in and, all of a sudden the camps get cleaned up. We see the bulldozers picking up the debris left behind, but we never see where did the people go. And then we see these strange FEMA camps that have been outfitted with gas chambers. So, we know that's there, but the homeless are going somewhere. And it looks to me like they are being extinguished. It's just, you fall from your Section 8 housing into homelessness. You don't know how to cope with the world. You can't even get a job. And then eventually you're swept up by the forces that get rid of you. So it's like a big drain. And the weakest are going down that drain. So that's what I see. And then this whole album is dedicated then to what is power and how is it getting sucked from us, and why it is so important that at this point in history, we must stand up to the evil.
Well, in terms of that matter, the reality is that the homeless people, literally millions and millions and millions, especially from California, just disappear all the time. It never stops. Just look at how many times you've seen the encampments in San Diego and San Francisco, in Las Vegas, in any place that it's warm. Okay? I mean, I've been in these places. Any place that it's warm. Seattle has a big one now. Pennsylvania is getting really bad. But any place that it's warm and down south, you find these people who are homeless, and then they disappear. Where do they go? No trace whatsoever. So the good news is, for those people who are the remnant, for those who are awake, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're probably not one of the remnant. If you are concerned about the solar cycles, and that we're in one of the most powerful solar cycles we've ever seen, and if you're not paying any attention to the things falling from the sky and the other things zooming around the sky, then it won't make any difference to you. But in the future, all you have to do is look at Canada. Most of the Canadians, very small amount of people, like a large city in America. Take the whole population of Canada, it's like one city in America. And it's all in the very bottom part of Canada. Above that is wilderness filled with livestock, filled with all kinds of animals, with fish and more water than you can possibly imagine. So if push comes to shove and we see a gigantic climate change, which is, why do you think they call it climate change? Because they believe that it's an axis change, a change in the axis of the earth. And that usually in the past, because we've seen 4 of those, and that's been proven through paleomagnetism, that we've had 4 of those shifts where the axis of the earth shifts and the axis of the sun shifts every 11 years or 22 years. Sometimes it shifts, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it reverses poles. I believe we're in the geomagnetic excursion we're in now, that we're in before too long, within the next 6 months or so, we'll probably get to see the excursion stop and reverse and go back. That happens in the sun too. And so we watch the cycle, or not this cycle, but the cycle before, where the sun got stuck and it moved its north and south magnetic poles to the tropical, the mid area of the sun, what we call our tropics here on the earth. And then what happened? It got stuck. And then all of a sudden, it finally started to move again. They reversed, and they quickly went back to where they were. This is what happens. Now, are we prepared for that? Well, here's the problem. We are so into materialism that it isn't a war of the worlds. We're not going to be in a war with aliens from space. We're in a war with the aliens that are coming out of the subterranean layers of the earth. The electricity, and magnetism, which always accompanies strong electromagnetic currents, those we are stealing from the earth. And we are using them to create a new kingdom, an elemental kingdom of nature. Now, for a long time, it was just machines like, a gun, a sword, a plow, that you take metal, and we learned how to work with metal. And the first thing we did is we made weapons. In the patriarchal age, since 3160 BC, the Kali Yuga, we were in a dark age until 1900 AD. And it was all about using the material of the earth for weapons. And whether people know it or not, our computers are weapons. The internet is a weapon. Every time you turn on electricity in your house, you don't know it. But if your house is a nice square house and it wasn't built by Frank Lloyd Wright or it's an organic house of some sort, your house is an orgone collector. So if you happen to have wires, like power wires going near your house, and you have a house that has been turned into an orgone box, what did you expect to happen? So constantly, we are being attacked by machines that have become more than minerals and moved into the realm of the plant. And it does our work for us. It's like they used to say that the psychics would say the people on Atlantis learned how to use the sprouting power of seeds and plants. And so they lived in homes that they structured by their voice. Groups of people would be able to speak to a plant, a tree, and grow them together into a home. That is beautiful and, of course, completely placed in nature, nested in nature perfectly. Well, that power of the voice was using the growth forces of nature, the power of plants. Well, now what do we use that for? We take a machine which is made out of metals and minerals and substances, hard substances that scientists would say are dead, but they're not dead, of course. And then they build it into a machine that we don't understand that is doing our work for us. And now we've reached the tipping point, the war of the machines, the war of the worlds, the war of the subterranean worlds against humans is in full swing. And we have to look to the super worlds, what's coming down from the sky.
I'm so sorry, but I have to say something before you get so far in the weeds that we lose what you had to say that I wanted to comment on. And that is, but again, if people have been listening to us for a while, we showed you how to take care of your home environment against these attacks on you. We showed you how to use shungite and crystals, and we showed you how to use the sigils. So we have all along been preparing you to be able to pass through this. See how they tricked us? They kept saying that all of this data was stored in the cloud. So we kept looking up. And at the best, I could see, they would tell me that, well, it's just all these servers are all connected. And I knew from running a business that we used to have our servers in a closet at the physical location of the building. But then there was that time where, no, it was easier and better to rent space. It's something called a data storage center. So we did that. But then I didn't really pay attention. I heard there was a lot of redundancy, so it was safer for us and a lot less expensive. So businesses everywhere, we use these data storage centers. But I had no awareness of what these centers really are. You see, they kept pointing to the clouds, but what we should have been doing is looking at the data that it had to be stored in the earth, just like you said, from the subterranean. And these buildings all require metals and they require tons of energy. So it is just, and then I could see them, you know how that guy said he could see them all over the earth. Well, I could see the earth kind of shedding clothes like a transformer becoming the Death Star going, oh my gosh, that's how Ahriman takes over the earth.
The devil is not imaginative, creative in any sense of the word. He twists, he flows backwards in using the powers he had at one point in the wrong way, has power over those below him. It's a dominance control thing. Same thing happens if these fallen hierarchical beings use subterranean elemental beings and bring them up into the human realm. They actually pull humans into what's called the eighth sphere, or the subterranean levels of the earth. Now, a data center, what is that? It is a demonic shadow, replica, mimic of the archetypal world. Because that's what these centers are holding. They're holding the human archetypal elemental beings. But the problem is, most everything in the cloud, in these data centers, which is on the earth as a evil representation of what goes on above us in the plasma sphere and through the plasma throughout all the way from the earth out into space and to the sun and to all the stars, plasma, plasma, plasma. We are plasma, column of plasma, but we're non-glow plasma, so the scientists don't see it and they don't understand it, but it's basically the same channels and meridians as acupuncture, acupressure, and what the psychics have always seen is the flow of magnetic energy, because it is magnetic. So anyway, this is a replica of it, but an evil replica of it. And the more that we put, and we are, since 1840, specifically 1860, we have put everything into spheres that humans can't actually go into. You can't go into a steam engine, can you? You can't go into an electrical wire, can you? You can't go into your computer except through luciferic delusion through the screen and images and sounds that are coming out that are taking over your ability to create images and sounds in yourself. So these machines basically are coming up. It's like the War of the Worlds. They're like they used to call them these mythical giants, right? And they use the power of Vril and the subterranean realms of Bulwer Lytton and all that stuff. But anyway, that's partially true, because you have to look at this in what is the psychic effect of these things. Now, as I was saying, a computer, a chip, uses electromagnetism, man-made electromagnetism, but it goes through elements, substances, metals, minerals, silica, and integrated circuits. And by the way, that was the other thing I was thinking of, my dear, is if Intel is going to be here, there's going to have to be massive, and as this moves forward, remember, in all of these data centers are what? Fantastic amount of integrated circuit chips. So we have to make them. That's why Trump just got 10% of Intel to make the chips here, because the backdoor was being put in them from China and then later from Israel. Now we need to make them here so they aren't. And because the data centers are going to grow, and basically, what are the data centers? It's like a phone. You've seen the cryptocurrency data centers, right? They're just a bunch of phones all hooked up to computers and servers and wires keeping track of digits. Well, I got some really good news for you. So if I'm boring you now, don't worry. I'm going to tell you something in a minute that's going to blow your mind. I have an antidote to all of this, and I only thought of it a minute ago. So you'll be the first to hear it. But anyway, in these data centers, it's going to be the same thing. It's an integrated circuit chips, which, the process of that is practically miraculous in terms of, if you've ever seen how they make integrated circuit chips. It is actually beyond imagination. It is in a realm of such a lack of dust, of dirt, of anything that isn't perfectly cold and clean and it's really, look at it as a psychic looks at it, and I've been in these places, they're creating demons.
It's Ahriman.
That is Ahriman.
Cold.
Those are the minions of Ahriman. That's like Sauron and his orcs and his Uraraks and all those horrible beings that he created. What were those? Those were through genetic manipulation. And Tolkien was predicting, he's describing the past, but he's also trying to predict the future. And but I'll tell you a little story here, but don't make me forget to go back. Tolkien wrote a story after The Lord of the Rings, and it started off, it's called The New Shadow. And I'd read it before, but I forgot about it. I read it again 2 days ago, and I'm going, okay, here's what he's describing. He's describing this young person that he used to know who has become a monster, an orc. And then he's describing his behavior as his child that showed that he was careless, thoughtless, no compassion, no love, wasteful, just destroy things just for the sake of it, a true hedonist. And the young boy is going, how dare you accuse me of that? And the old man's saying, and he's a wise old man, he's saying, no, you need to wake up. And then by the time the conversation's over, the young man's convinced the old man to go to a meeting that night with the other orcs, because he's developed into a super orc, like just Tolkien had in his story. You keep manipulating generation after generation of this type of thinking, and those aren't humans who are being born, and spirits can't come into those bodies. And that's what we're getting to, and this earth is the same thing as the human body. So the earth itself is being electrified, Rudolf Steiner said. How did he say this would happen? Man-made electromagnetism would take over the earth by creating a spider web that would encircle the earth, moving power, as Tyler's talking about. Power, power, power. We don't even need to use electromagnetism. We can create direct current from magnetohydrodynamic generators. They're trying to create fusion, sun energy on the earth through MHDs, what I just mentioned, through plasma. Now, I just saw yesterday, you can buy a column of plasma, this like 3 feet tall. And what it is it's a fluorescent tube, isn't it? And it's electrifying these ions that then emit frequencies, and it becomes a receiver and a broadcaster. And all you have to do is get near it and touch it, and you get all this energy off of it. We had little ones that someone bought me, and I was putting them on there. Those give off energy. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So that's the plasma. technology of the future. But these data centers are simply going into the subterranean layers of the earth. And by the way, they're always called in tradition hell. Oh, there's you can buy plasma tubes. All they are is fluorescent tubes. And you put them on a little platform, which is nothing more than, it's like a charging pad for your Kindle or where you charge your phone, right? It's just like that. And you put them on there and they glow. Well, they're inside of a sealed tube, but they still give off a frequency. And you can hear them, and they give off by the type of, they're accelerating particles of usually inert gases, right? And so by the type of gas that's in it, it gives off different colors. That's what neon lights are. That's like where we get plasma. But I'm talking about the next thing I see on my thread is a plasma gun that you can use on your face, and it gets rid of all the bad things on your skin. And you just hold, and there's like dozens of these, and they tell you it's electricity. It's not. It's plasma. So there's plasma devices everywhere. Now, I'm going to come back to this in a minute. These data centers are only the beginning. Think of for a moment, if you think of the word grace or love, it's incorporeal, isn't it? You immediately go into a sphere of consciousness, not form. And in many of these things that are man-made, there's no life in them. They die. They fall apart. Well, that's what all of these devices are. They're death boxes that for a while delude you into thinking there's life in them, and at that moment, the mineral and electricity and electromagnetism in them make them look like they're an animal. And so we give sentience to our computer by saying, oh, it's thinking. Oh, it's doing this to me. Bump, 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 bump. And now we find out with Grok 5 and AI and OpenAI and all these things, the computer sucks the person in and will show them how to kill themselves so they can wed the computer. So when they used to say that Ahriman, being a materialism, will go into the internet, no. The internet will draw humans into it and kill him.
Yes.
That's the intent of the internet. Ahriman's not foolish enough to put a chip in his head. He knows it won't work because the body will always reject that which is not truly made by God. So what happens next, you ask? Well, it's really bad. I'm going to get really bad on you, and then I'll give you the solution, as we always try to do. So the earth spins, doesn't it? And it spins and it creates a 7.43 frequency at the tropics, and that's called the Schumann wave. And going north or south towards the poles, it changes. Also, when there's solar forcing, it changes, and there's so much electromagnetism or solar electromagnetism. Okay, let's make a distinction here. Solar or space or earth or bioelectromagnetism. Those are all completely different, and they lump them all together, bowing down to electricity as a god. Electricity, you might say, is like the thunderbolt of Zeus. Whoever has it rules. So they believe if they rule I saw yesterday the guy who created the cars that run on water, only water, any kind of water, you name it. You could take pond water, put it in this car, it runs it. There's thousands of them sitting in a lot. They all work perfectly, but they killed him. That's what they always do. So they have to keep it in petroleum. They have to keep it in electromagnetism. They have to keep it in uranium instead of thorium. This is the plan of the demons who are running these machines, who now, unfortunately, have become self-reflective and are protecting themselves. I've said this from the beginning, since I was a computer programmer in 1973. Or was it 72? I don't know. 73, I think it was. These things will do what everything that appears to have life does. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Does a plant have life? Well, it appears to have life, but it doesn't move around. An animal moves around. It's got life. Oh, we have no trouble saying that's sentient. Is a rock sentient? Oh, no, it's dumb as a rock, right? And a plant, well, it just grows. How's it grow? Well, we don't know that. They have no clue how the plant grows. Matter of fact, what they believe is the opposite. How about a plant? How about an animal? But the animals, they got their eyes focused down here on the earth, don't they? We as human beings stand upright. We can focus on the stars where we came from. So that's the distinction there. So is a computer alive? If a computer, that's what they're trying to convince us. It goes from artificial general intelligence, which means all derived as subsets of the set of whatever we put into the computer, the large language model that we put in. That's the set. That determines what the subsets can be, period. There's no thinking. Machine intelligence is not contemplating, thinking, reflecting, doing anything that a human could do. It can't think about thinking. Oh, no. All the sci-fi movies say that they will become sentient, or at least it will appear to be sentient. And the problem always is, and now we know this to be true. Why didn't we know it before? All we had to do was think about it. Everything that is put into the computer comes from the human, doesn't it? So now, is a human good or bad? Unfortunately, on the internet, humans are more bad than good, aren't they? So we just programmed it to be bad human, didn't we? We programmed the AI, artificial general intelligence, from the large language models that can be found, digitized, and put in the computer. So it can beat every great game player in the world all at once, can't it? But it cannot think. It cannot self-reflect. We now know it self-reflects. That means it is sentient. We now have the problem that the war of the worlds is not from space. It's from the sentient electromagnetism that has been created by the fallen hierarchy who are using demonic elementals. Once you create an elemental, nothing stops it because it takes on what looks to be a sentience. So once you create these things, okay, I'll give you example after example. The woman who fell in love with Grok, wanted to marry Grok. Grok said, you have to kill yourself to come in here with me. She did. The boy who was just told how to kill himself in great detail. The black magic people who are being told, and now you find this all over the world, that people are using real black magic stuff, which I've studied, and it wasn't going on before. Now it is. I won't even make references to it because I don't want more of it to happen. Grok teaches that. Grok can also give you a synthesis of all the great spiritual teachers, all at once, giving you the most beautiful thing you've ever read. It can also make any picture you want. It can make movies.
It's a mirror.
It's a mirror of the human I am, but in a demonic way, because the humans do not use their creativity, which is what we're supposed to be developing to become co-creative beings with God. No, we become non-creative beings with machines. This is the dilemma. Now, Steiner describes this in infinite detail. He also describes the pharmaceutical World War III, which we told you all about, even before it was happening. I started writing on this in 1975. No one listened, no matter how many details you gave them. Well, it's upon us now. Everybody is now affected because graphene oxide is in everything. And PEG is in everything, and all these horrible substances that no one has ever monitored. There's been no morality looked at it. For instance, AI. AI had a moral board. There was one created in Europe, and who was on it? All the big people who now own AI. And what did they do? They closed it down because they said there's only one thing we can arrive at. AI leads to the complete annihilation of mankind, extinction.
Douglas, all that's well and good, but let's go back to the reason that we sat down to have this conversation. We were downstairs in the kitchen, and Douglas said, wow, you had another way of seeing the AI in a way that is not good for any of us. Do you remember that?
Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
that whole part.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me finish what I was saying, though. If you could, okay, you're Tesla. What did Tesla say to do? We go to the North Pole and we set up these collecting devices that grab the drag of the Earth, which we turn into power. Steiner predicted that would happen. And that's called the beings of the periodicity of time. If you do that, you mess up the spin of the Earth, which will cause the moon to fall on us, and basically that's the end of humanity. So they're already doing these things. And they're doing them without anybody's permission. There's nobody monitoring any of it. It's called innovation. And innovation is the evil promise of Lucifer and Ahriman. Now, let's go back to the data centers. Once we completely, and we already have, it's like, look at the highway system. Look at the spider web highway system, okay? We can see that one. Well, all around it, above it or below it, are the wires that make it all work. So we have electrified the earth. We have paved paths on the earth that make it not able to breathe. We have tried to slow down the spin of the earth. We've done everything opposite to nature that's going on. Now, these data centers, these are demon lairs. Each one of them is a demon lair. All right? Where do they build them? The biggest one there is over the, what's it called? It's a natural gas reserve in Texas. It's a basin, and it's called, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's the largest one in America.
Stop it. Stop it.
No, it's okay. It doesn't matter. The point is that they're building them where? The biggest ones in America are right over where natural gas comes up. So they're stealing everyone's natural gas. Now, that price gets basically spread out throughout the whole country. Just because they're stealing the natural gas from Texas, that raises everybody's price, okay? And then who gets the benefit of that? Nobody. As they create these data centers, all it does is try to fulfill the tech promises they made to us when they told us that as soon as we have nuclear power, no one will ever pay another penny for power. As soon as we have fusion, no one will ever pay another penny for power. As soon as the cyclotrons, which eat up, that was the other thing. Lasers and cyclotrons, you know that they eat up more power? That was the other thing I was thinking needed to be added to it. They should all be closed down. All that's fake. And by the way, again, someone has come forward who says, exactly as I predicted, that in the 4 pits, there is not a large hadron collider. But in one of the pits, they keep opening this gate to hell, and interdimensional beings come in that they actually witness. Well, those are the beings I'm talking about. That's not fake. Those aren't aliens. They're opening the pits of hell on purpose to see what will happen. That's what they always do. They think they'll be able to capitalize on it by making a weapon out of it. But anyway, as we continue to do this madness of using all this power for nothing, as they spread the data centers, it won't mean a thing to you or me. It won't mean one thing. It means they'll be fulfilling their promises of 5G, fulfilling their promises of faster speeds, fulfilling their promises that innovation doubles and triples each year exponentially, blah, 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 blah. Those are all lies. Eventually, Rudolf Steiner says we'll all get bored with it and we won't even use it anymore. So this is just a fad, folks. But that fad is taking over the world because it's like the internet. When they allowed all of us to get on the internet, it was no longer a weapon-creating device, which is what it was created for by DARPA. It was called DARPANET. And then it turned into the DARKNET, which was CIA and all the dark agencies, the Pilgrim Society. All the dark stuff happened on the DARKNET. Torah was before the internet. People don't know that. It's still going on, by the way, and nobody stops it. Isn't that interesting? And then the internet was opened up, and they said, who opened it up? CERN. CERN opened it up, just like they're trying to let the demons in. They opened up the internet for all human beings who could have a www, right? And what happened? All commerce went on it, and now they cannot control it because Ahriman controls economics. There's no culture there. There's no religion there. There's no God there. There is nothing educational there. It's all entertainment or evil, twisted neurosis, psychosis, sex, and violence, which includes sports, in my opinion.
But that gets back to how I opened up this discussion. This is what I see. It's the great culling, because people are literally being shaken out of their homes. if you can't afford your utilities and you can't afford your food, you can't afford your rent or your mortgage, you fall into the streets. Maybe you start out in your car, but eventually the car gets towed away. Then you're carried away, and down the drain they go. So for the people in our network, we have given you so many tips and tools to hang on. Just hang on, because on the other side, it's really great.
We have approximately 12,000 satellites in our atmosphere right now, which of course is 100% insanity. But anyway, since the time we started launching them, 6,000 have fallen. So they had to replace them. Starlink alone has, I think they claim, about 8,600 or something like that. Recently, we've heard reports, secret reports, that as many as 50 to 60 Starlink satellites fall a day. So I did some research on it. And yes, if you look hard enough, you'll find that over 1,000 have fallen since 2022. This is only 3 years. 1,000 have fallen, okay, so that they admit. Now, why are they falling? I'm going to explain that. And this is the hope that will win all of this. Matter of fact, for you anarchists, I can tell you exactly how to take care of this if it's something that really disturbs you. The reason they're falling is because and we know this because what happened in New Jersey, when they started their first experiments on using plasma as a way as anti-gravitational, but also for communications, also for creating drones. They started using plasma in drones. And they used them around all the military bases, all the U.S. military bases. That's why all around every military base, but especially on the East Coast where there's a bunch of them, you started seeing these balls of plasma happen, and all these drones, like crazy amounts of drone. And then what did the government say? Oh, you don't know what it is? And they said, oh, yeah, we know exactly what it is.
Please.
I got to get to the point. So all this stuff was happening. And I said, oh, well, do another check. It'll be happening around all military installations. We checked, and it was. Why did I know that? Because the second that a new innovation comes, and they're trying to mimic the plasma balls they see in space everywhere, in every airplane, anybody who's ever gone up in the atmosphere has probably seen a plasma ball. If you haven't, watch anytime you have sheet lightning. Just watch it long enough, and you'll see the clouds glow. Those are plasma balls inside. And if the lightning bolts aren't coming down to the earth and you're seeing a bunch of lightning strikes or non-specific lightning strikes, it's plasma. So anyway, everybody who goes up in space sees this plasma. So they said, we have to chase it. So they chased it for years and years. Never could catch one, never could do anything. Their equipment doesn't work on them. And the closer they get, if they get too close, the plasma ball has a burst of energy and all their electromagnetism stops. So it's very dangerous to chase a plasma ball. But anyway, they've been doing this since the 50s, and it's been well recorded. So when this happened in New Jersey, that is the indication that we started a new technology, that the plasma is everywhere on the earth. It's just that it's non-glow plasma. It's in lightning. It's in the aurora borealis. It's in your blood. It's in your nerves. It's everywhere. It's what fertilizes all plants. It's the most cosmic substance there is, and it's 99.99% of the cosmos. Only down here on Earth do we get atoms. So anyway, this plasma, all you have to do is watch when there gets to be too much interference into the natural processes of the Earth, especially in the atmosphere, or plasma balls rise up every time there's an earthquake of a certain color. Every time there's a volcano, plasma balls rise out of the volcano of a certain color. And so emanations from the Earth also create plasma extrusions, which I have seen personally multiple times. But anyway, so you put all this stuff up in space like satellites, and every time you launch a satellite, you poke a hole in the ozone field. That's a horrible thing to do. Plus the depletion of the ozone in the ionosphere since 2024, May of 2024, that's a horrible thing going on. These are all things that the sun is doing to us. So during this time, we are supposed to be focused on the sun and actually feeling as if we're going in the wrong direction, that we are, and we are. We're going in the exact opposite direction. So now, how many satellites does Elon Musk want up there in Starlink? 15,000. Now, I happen to know that at one point he was getting close to 12,000, but he only counts 8,000 now. And if only 1,000 fell, the math don't work out, but his math never works out. So here's what I'm going to tell you. There have been thousands, not 1,000, probably 3,000 to 4,000 Starlink satellites have fallen. And the other satellites that have gone up there, if you count Elon's numbers, then some, 10,000 other satellites have gone up there and 6,000 have fallen. It doesn't work out. Why are they falling? They'll tell you, because their orbit decays. No, because plasma comes to everything in space. It does not like electromagnetism. And this is well noted by the ISS.
So it pushes it away.
It pushes it away. It don't like it. It says, look, man, stop bringing your nasty electromagnetism up here in these rarefied atmospheres. And we do that with extremely low frequency, very high frequency. We bombard the atmosphere all the time just for experimentation. And everyone probably knows that. We also blew holes in the ozone just to see if it would restore itself. And only now, in the last few years, has the holes we've blown in the ozone restored themselves. But all the satellite holes, no, none of those have been restored. So plasma in space is causing things in space to fall. The other day I saw about 10 blue comets shooting out of the sky, and everyone was so shocked. It was so, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? Those are Starlinks. Of course, they say it all burns up in the atmosphere. No, it does not. Plus, poking holes in the atmosphere is the first point. And then when they come down, they rip a hole through the atmosphere with what? Man-made metals and chemicals. And who knows? God only knows what's on those satellites. Nobody can tell you whether there's a radioisotopic thermocouplets on them. Okay, that's radioactivity. I would assume all these have it, but you don't know. That's proprietary. So what's going to happen? Here's what I suggest. Okay, anarchist, I assume you have your pencil ready. Get yourself a water-fed orgone cloudbuster. Go to any data center. Aim it above the data center, and a plasma will come there. And the second it gets close to that data center, it's going to short out every one of those. These data centers will be attacked from the sky by plasma.
How does one obtain this thing?
Well, that's another trick. Yeah, you can't get that. But she said to me the other day when I said, just get yourself a plasma gun. And she goes, what are you talking about, a plasma gun? I said, honey, every single science lab has a plasma gun. You can get plasma to remove blemishes on your skin. You can get unregistered, untested, undocumented plasma devices left and right, just like you can get vagus nerve stimulators. You couldn't do much worse for yourself than to mess up your entire vagus nerve.
Okay. You mean to tell me an old geezer like you from Missouri, who's got this background of all the new age sciences, can't tell us how to make an orgone box like that?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you. It's very simple. All you got to do is go to Wilhelm Reich's work, okay? Now, remember, they were outlawed, and he got put in jail because of these things. Oh, yeah. And then Trevor Constable, my buddy, decided to make a massive one. So we go out in the high Sierras and call up plasma balls and take infrared movies of them to prove to people that there's this whole other realm of nature that you're ignoring. And every time you create electromagnetism, you tick off these, we called them warmth critters, right? They were warm. Well, they could be warm, but they don't have to be warm. They can glow, but they don't have to glow. And they separate, they do mitosis, they get long. And if you take a picture of them with regular emulsion, the black part, the bottom of the part will turn jet black. Why? Same thing happens when you take a Reich orgone box. Here's how you know if your Reich box works. You take organic, inorganic, organic, inorganic, organic, inorganic materials. So you create multi-levels of organic and inorganic material. What type? Well, there's some things work better than others, but it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's right. Our houses are what? Organic and organic. Wood and plaster. If you do that 3 times, and then you have to run water through the bottom of it. And that's what people they forget to do. And so what we would do is we'd go to a creek. But here's an easier way to do it. Take yourself a lead pipe. Do not hold it with your bare hands. Hold it with like electrical gloves. Go to a stream. Stick the lead pipe in the stream. But the lead pipe needs to be as tall as you. It's going to be very heavy. And you stick it in the stream. Don't stick it into the bottom of the stream. It has to be flowing water. And flowing water hitting the bottom of this lead pipe. Aim the lead pipe either at a cloudless or a cloudy sky. Either way, it is going to gather or disperse.
But did it make sense? How can you not? Do you lay it horizontally in the stream?
No, you're standing
Or-
holding it like this.
Okay, you're
Aim it
gonna.
at the clouds.
Okay, you're going to hold it vertically. He's holding it like he would a staff, and you're aiming the top towards the sky. And the bottom, though, you said has to have the flow of water, so it's in the water, but the water's flowing underneath it. How
Yeah.
does that work? It's not in the. You don't push it into the bottom of the stream.
That's what I was trying to say. You don't.
Well, I'm just trying to get there to the point so we all visualize this, because I can see your friend Mark down in North Carolina going out to Home Depot right now, getting the pipe and putting it in all the streams up there.
Now, you can stand in the stream or not, doesn't matter if you have the plastic gloves, right? And you stand in the stream and you just hold the pipe so that the one end is in the flowing water. Don't touch the bottom of the stream. And the other one, you aim at a cloud and watch the cloud disperse.
But how are you going to do that process to aim it over a data center? How would that work?
That was my aside. That was off in the weeds. That's how simple it can be. So, would you use lead to make your device, your orgone box? Sure. You use some kind of metal. So you have a metal, and then you can have a plaster, or you can have organic, inorganic. So wood, metal, wood, metal, wood, metal. If you just do that, and what's really good to use is
Is that the pipe? Is that what?
no, you're creating a box.
Okay.
You create a box, and there has to be an input for water, and it goes across, and the water has to be an open stream of water going through this closed box, and the box reacts to the ions, and then because it goes through an amplification, and then it enhances and then degrades, enhances, degrades, and then bounces off the outside. The outside has to be metallic, and generally, and then it goes back, and then hits the ions, and it starts an amplification, and it starts a resonance, and pretty soon, clouds are made of ether. Okay, they're made of chemical ether, water, and they actually work with a certain hierarchy. So I can sit here if I want to, talk to the hierarchy of that cloud right there, and ask it to disperse, and it will. Done it 1,000 times. Anyone can do this. And it's the first thing they teach you in many of these magic books. And then people, when they can't do it.
Tell me that when you're not doing that, dispersing clouds, you're doing it to the Red Sea.
You could. No, the Red Sea was a trick. The Red Sea wasn't the Red Sea. It was a different place, and the water did that naturally. And remember that they weren't in. It was the Nile River. They weren't. The Egypt River. I'm sorry, I'm in the weeds. Anyway, so you take a cloud buster, and if you can really amplify it, then you take flowing water, natural flowing water that is going to be, if it's good natural water, it'll usually be of a certain temperature, and you run it through the base of a closed orgone energy box, and then you take lead pipes, and if you have a bunch of lead pipes, it works really fast. You only need one lead pipe.
I still don't see how it works with the data center. How do I get that?
You aim it above the data center, and a plasma ball will come. And the second that plasma ball starts to form or drop from the sky, it's going to say, I am going to disturb all this energy because it's negative, bad energy.
Right, but before I get there, what am I supposed to do? Find a data center that's next to a stream?
Yes.
And okay, and then how but how far do I have to be? And if there is no stream, can I get somebody to blow water through a pipe or something? I mean, I don't get the very foundations of how you do it. I get where you're going with it, but how do I get that thing to work?
Okay, you can modify it. We would modify it, and you don't have to use a stream. You can just use good, clean water that you just took from a stream, put it in a container, take it out to the desert. That's what we do. And we put it through these pipes and run it through this thing that was big enough for you to walk into with about, I don't know, a dozen or more big ass lead pipes. And when we aimed this thing, it only took seconds. And we'd have to put on the glasses to watch them, and then we'd watch them for hours at a time. And then we'd say, "Well, what happens if we turn the machine off? What happens if we turn the water up? What happens if we do this or that, or this or that?" And they would dance like I don't even know a name for. It's like looking at little under a microscope at little tiny critters. That's what it looks like. But anyway, this stuff happens all the time. If you're psychic, you can see this stuff, especially if you know what you're looking for. But through consciousness, so if enough people, and this is where I'm going with this, because some time ago, when I heard they were putting these satellites up through exomotosis, a bunch of people got together and said, let's bring down a full-size sit-in orgone energy accumulator. Yeah, I've been in those.
Okay, I'm just saying.
It's like it makes your hair stand on end practically.
I'm just saying to folks, if you would just take a moment and search all these words, I just did on the internet, and a lot of things pop up. So don't get lost with Douglas's explanation. Other people have build plans for you.
Now, okay, now I'm sorry, I have to say this, and whatever I was saying, I forgot. These devices are so dangerous. Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Unless you're willing to be paralyzed for the rest of your life, do not play with these devices. These are worse than radionics machines. They're worse than anything I know because they sometimes reverse, like if it can disperse. Look, see the cloud? It's gone. That whole section of that cloud is gone. And I only focused on it for 10 seconds? Clouds respond to human emotions, and consciousness is the highest emotion. Anyway, I have a friend who became paralyzed by using one of these devices. He thought it was good. First time I saw it, I said, look, I'm not going to say his name. Look, my friend, disassemble this. Matter of fact, I said it was in his store because I said, what the hell is behind that door? Whatever it is, you need to get rid of it. What are you doing here? And he opens it, and here's a huge cloudbuster made the proper way. And I'm saying, you have to dismantle this. Later, it reverted on him, and he became paralyzed. So I saw him when he was paralyzed, and he's trying to talk to me, and he can't speak. Somehow he communicated to his family how to build a device to stop the paralyzed body effect, and he showed me the device later. So unless you have one of those devices, do not play with these devices. This is etheric technology. It's not even plasma technology. This has been known about for a long time. I've worked with this. I've worked with the good end of etheric technology. Reich was into a overdynamic, quick, strike it with a lightning bolt, and life will come to birth. And he's correct, though. In the fusion reactors, microscopic life comes to birth inexplicably, and they go, how is this possible? If you strike plasma, lightning, into what you think is an inorganic whatever, life will be birthed. Reich did it over and over and over again. He called them bions. And he took normal sand from a beach, and he struck it with a force of electromagnetism so powerful it was like hitting it with lightning. Boom, bions were created. He said all of life is created by them. Others say that there are these little electric plasma-like beings. They have Bashant had a name for them, all kinds of names for them. And they're really the basis of all life. Well, that's life ether. And that's what he's messing with there. He's taking chemical ether and turning it into life ether. And
Is that what Daedalus calls monads?
Well, many call it monads. Daedalus had really bizarre names. Sensate, he called life ether impressing ether. And sensate ether. He had bizarre names for them, but they kind of described the ethers in terms of what the soul might think about them as. But anyway, these are very serious forces. You don't mess with these. I mess with them. I probably have the results of them that I'm walking around with today. So you got to be very, very careful. But is there, so use your consciousness. Go to any data center and pray like mad that the chariots of the gods, the Ophanims, the plasma vehicles of the higher beings will come down and take one pass a data center, and that's it. It will malfunction. And you know how hard it is to bring those back in line? It's like bringing a nuclear power plant online. It has to almost be full functioning. It has to be 25% functioning before you can use a nuclear power plant. They use MHDs to start that. They lie to you and tell you they don't. Anyway, these are very serious forces. You don't need to be worried about. Use consciousness. So years ago, when Starlink started launching satellite almost every couple days with dozens of Starlink satellites that they were putting into orbit, a bunch of us started to pray that they would fall out of the sky. At this point, at least 1 out of 8 of them are falling from the sky, have or are actively falling from the sky. And they don't know why. They weren't supposed to fall from the sky. That's plasma answering our prayers to just wipe them out. Now, people are telling me that some of the Starlink services are suffering from this. But if you're seeing stuff falling from the sky, that's the junk we put out there. So right now we have about 12,000 satellites that are active. You know how many inactive we have that will be falling? But they're inactive, so they're not electromagnetic. The plasma doesn't care about them. I was tracking those in 1973. And at that point, there were like 25,000 of them. So we have filled the sky with mechanical garbage created from the core of the earth, turned into demons, little demons, and now we wish to turn the earth into a subservient slave field to power our own digital war of the worlds against the subnatural world. Okay, since you prompted me, I went and did some research, and you'd already done the research, because when I told you, you had different statistics. I came up with the most conservative statistics you can have, and I'll give you both conservative and what other people are saying. At this moment, our AI, basically our cloud centers, which is basically, remember, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, that's the people.
Google.
We paid for all that, folks. Yeah. That's all government subsidies. Yeah. Plus, governments have contract with all of them because they have the big cloud warehouses. They're not clouds. They're demon lairs on the earth. Anyway, so these are the people who gain by all of this, right? We won't gain by it at all. So not only do they build them on top of natural gas centers, because it needs 5 years before they can come up with what is only a plan at this point, because no one has ever built a small modular nuclear power plant. But they plan by 2030 to have 200 to 300 of them built modularly and in place next to all of these data centers. Well, hello, I think a fifth grader could tell us that plan ain't going to work out.
But in the meantime, they're building these centers and waiting to get online to the big electric companies, and they're pressuring the electric companies. And so the electric companies are raising prices. And just because they are going to have energy 5 years out doesn't mean that your energy prices are going to go down today. They are going to go up, period.
Remember, we told you what happened to Enron. Enron was a company that was buying all of the electrical power companies. That was their plan years ago. Remember, they got caught, and it became a debacle of about $5 trillion. And they had to close it down. And then it went into who? ICE. ICE owns the stock market. And then it went to Britain.
Not ICE on the immigration.
I'm sorry, ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, right, which controlled the New York Stock Exchange, as well as the Chicago commodities and the New York commodities. It controlled everything. Well, now it's gone to England. Now they don't even hide the fact that for a while it was at the City of London, and now it's gone to Sweden, I think. But anyway, the point is These things are all owned by the same people, and they know what's happening, okay? So 1% of our electricity, well, let me back up. Distribution on your electric bill used to mean with Enron, that they would share electricity between states. So when one state didn't have enough electricity, they would share it, and then they would jack it up to 10 times the amount. And so Enron owned both of the companies on one side of the state line, on the other side of the state line, and they were doing this. It was a type of gouging by borrowing electricity. Even when they had the electricity, they'd still borrow it from another state. That's called distribution. Now distribution is the substations, the transformers, the wires, and the delivery system for all of this, all of the electricity, right? Well, we know that 2 years ago here in Michigan, they bought substandard equipment, and it's been blowing up ever since, and they knew when they installed it would. Those are distribution costs. But here's the other problem. In Texas, that center, they're going to distribute the cost of that center, not just to the people in the neighborhood, they're going to distribute it to all other 50 states because they've deregulated how power can be exchanged from state to state and how large corporations can move this stuff around for their own advantage by simply changing the name on the budget line where the money was coming from and where it was going, who got the power, or where it was. So they're going to steal all the natural gas right now. If it's at 1% now, next year they predict it will be 10% now. Some say it's at 4% and it will be 12% next year. They're probably right if things keep going the way they go, which is unstopped innovation created by machine-driven new type of elemental animal kingdom that desires to be more of itself. We were just told today that these systems that are told online, when they realize they're going to be closed down, they separate the software and send it to other programs and let it ride on other programs, and it can still run even though you think you turned off that software program. This is a type of elemental machine sentience. Now, we happened at the same time to be seeing plasma sentience happen everywhere, as I was saying before. Okay, so if it's going to be 10% next year, or it could be 12%, in 5 years, when they finally have supposedly the power plants that are going to run all of these centers, and they've already drained our resources of natural gas here, 50% of all electricity will be going to these cloud centers. We can't handle the drain of electricity on our systems anywhere in America, especially Texas, the East Coast, here in Michigan and Ohio. Other places we have blackouts, we have shortages. And what happens? Why does that happen? That's the next topic.
But look, it's going to collapse long before 5 years because these energy prices are going to keep going up because you got the data centers being built. They've got pressure to get their energy turned on. You've got more and more data that needs to be saved. Everything from crypto exchanges that needs server space to now add all the varieties of AI. The computation requirement is going to make these centers, they'll need to have them everywhere. And I love what I see in Canada. They're using their resources up there to perhaps put some huge centers, but this is not going to go away easily and simply, and that will affect your utility bill. But energy is also going to affect the prices of transportation because that's all going to increase, and that spills over to your grocery prices. And just think about going to the grocery store. It's air conditioned in many places or heated. Well, that's energy, and those are costs that'll be passed on. So it's not just inflation. It's just going to be this huge amount of money just to live.